counselors are online. So welcome and good evening. And let's go ahead and get the city council regular session meeting started Monday, April 18th, 2022 at 7:01. Please stand for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Lori, roll call.
Thank you. Council Page,
Here.
Council Martinez,
Here.
Council Papen,
Here.
Council Shelvin,
Present.
Council Smith,
Here.
Mayor Lenahan,
Here.
and Council Kendall is excused this evening.
Great. Thank you very much. Item number 5 on our agenda is the consent agenda. And there are 4 items under the consent agenda. Resolution number 2179, appointing Lisa Butler to the Budget Committee. Resolution 2180, appointing Chi Miller to the Planning Commission. Approval of tonight's agenda and the approval of the April 4th City Council minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Lisa Butler is here if anybody
Lisa is
wants
here?
to.
Hi, Lisa. Sorry. Would anyone like to have any of you have questions for Lisa? Comments?
Lisa, we're so thankful that you're stepping up. Yeah, I know that you're a great contributor to the economic development community, but we're really glad that you're stepping up.
Awesome. Any corrections to the minutes that we need to be aware of? All right, if not, then I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to.
Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Item number 6 is the public comment. This is the time that we encourage folks from the public to speak on anything not on our agenda. Is there anyone in Jesse Mays here that wishes to speak? Lori, have you received anything online?
I have
or
not received anything prior to the meeting tonight.
Great. All right. So let the record show there's no public comment this evening. So we'll just dive right into our staff reports. And Robin, you're welcome to sit there and just speak into the mic or come up in front, whichever you prefer.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. Great. Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to see you. I just had a couple of things I wanted to highlight for my report. And one is that the Friends of the Library are going to participate in the citywide garage sale, selling gently used DVDs and children's books. And they'll be out in front of the library, and they'll be on the list of locations for that. And then I inadvertently left the date off where everyone can cook for this month. It's the 27th. Beef stew with floral focaccia. It's on Zoom. And then just that we're excited that story times are coming back next month. We're going to have them here at Jesse Mays, actually, because we have a nice restroom now. We're going to try having them in the lawn, weather permitting too. So that's kind of nice for the families. So thank you.
Well, good to see you in person.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks.
Any questions or comments for Robin?
Nope, looks like the numbers are coming up good to me.
Yep. We're trending up. We're doing great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. Next up is Chief Paxton.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. So for March, here in that P, it looks like we had 223 calls the deputies responded to or self-initiated. As well as, I didn't see any current trends. All right, is this better?
Yes.
Normally people don't say I'm too quiet, so pretty sure on the opposite, that's the case. So, for March, looks like we had 223 calls for service with the officers. Those are the calls and the self-initiated activity. I didn't see any recurring trends when I was looking at what the different calls were. Based on what we were talking about in some other previous discussions, we've opened up overtime for the evening in March, starting in March. So that's the first month of doing it. And we've spent 55 hours in overtime so far. That's just March. And that's kind of reflected in the increase of self-initiated activity if you look down at the stats. Got not a huge stack guide, but they're all there. You'll see that because at night that's a lot of self-initiated activities where the other deputies that are here are actually doing proactive police work. As well as we've really been focused on sitting at the school zones, both in the afternoon and morning. So the self-initiative is kind of off the charts there compared to the other ones, but really, like I've said before in the past, the public demand calls, that's really what I focus on because that's the people calling in and wanting police service. And that's pretty much right on par through the month of March, as well as if you look into the quarterly, because it's April, so we're looking at the first 3 months. That's the second page there. We're right in the means of the PD calls, as well as the hours there for the time of day that the calls are. So everything's pretty much status quo as that goes for the numbers. Also, Deputy Schutz resigned from the sheriff's office. So his last day went by, and then Deputy Waldron is filling in for 6 months on the 16th, starting the 16th, he took over. He'll be doing it for 6 months and we'll reevaluate. Unfortunately, we didn't get a deputy to put in for North Plains for a year for a myriad of reasons. So I'm trying to figure that out. And hopefully by the next bid, which is in 6 months, we'll get someone that wants to commit. So going forward, I wanted to hit on a couple things that, even though it wasn't last month, that it's this month. Conway was injured in a training accident, so she's out for a couple weeks. Nothing serious, but she should be back. She's being filled in for that time. The big commotion, if anyone didn't know, there was a stolen vehicle, kind of a crime spree here last Friday. And that was where someone stole a car, and then they went and stole some other things like a license plate, furniture. That isn't such a big deal, except for Deputy Brubaker who did a great job and actually spotted the suspect vehicle. And when they went to elude it, crashed into a bunch of our residents' cars right there by the senior center, fleeing and then crashing onto the highway. I don't know if you knew this. I'm sure you guys are familiar with your town. The 314 is not going to Highway 26. This guy did not know that. So he made some damage there. But he's in custody. So one of the suspects is in custody. So it's just a matter of still looking for the other outstanding one. Lastly, whether this is the right, wrong place to do this, it's been bugging me for a long time. And it started with the pedestrian missions that we've been doing occasionally. But I'd sure like to see a safety improvement with the stop sign, adding a stop sign. That intersection is atrocious for if you're trying to get a car to pull out onto Commercial if you're on Main, as well as anybody trying to cross the street. And that's either side of it. So I know the city is a huge, big emphasis on being able to walk and move around, especially with that bridge. And I think that's going to be a huge safety concern. And I don't think it's too much to ask for the trucks or the cars that are going 25 anyways to stop at an intersection. It's really one of the key made short of Glencoe and Commercial. It's probably the biggest intersection we have in the city. So to me, I want to see a stop sign put there, and that's just based on my opinion. So again, I don't know if this is the right venue for that, but I think that would be an improvement both to the city and going forward long-term. So that's what I'd like to see. Other than that, I'm open for questions.
I just had a question for Andy, like, what's the process to get a stop sign?
I promise we didn't coordinate this today. I
Okay.
did not speak to Jim about this at all, but I was walking. I usually have to work on like survey things. So I was walking down there today and I was like, Jim and I talked about this a while ago and we haven't revisited it in a bit. So I sent an email to Spencer about what would be the process to just put in stop signs there. We have it on the CIP later this year to at least do some new striping there at Main Street, and I thought we'd just do some stop signs at the same time. It's probably as simple as a resolution. That was it. So, but conversation first. He and I have talked about it for a while, and it just seems like that with more and more people, once Brittenell's been built out, you have more people using Main Street coming to downtown. We're going to build sidewalks on the south side of Main Street. More and more people are using that, so it just makes sense to make that a four-way stop. And we would coordinate and just talk to Oregon Canadian, the mill, and those guys that use this. They're on the west side of the road. That hey, this is coming, so just be prepared to have a four-way stop. And I was even thinking about it again as I drove in today. There's two stop signs in my neighborhood that really make no sense, and I was thinking, why are these here? But then as I was driving off, I was like, it takes 2 seconds out of my day and it's a lot safer. That's probably why we're there. So I think it's probably the best time we just do that downtown. So it's serendipity, chief.
I've just been waiting for the next city council to be able to bring it up, so I've been sitting on it for a month.
Councilor Page?
While we're on the stop sign, I don't think we need to do a study on it. It's self-evident, we should have a stop sign there. I think it's great. But with the night patrols, what have you been seeing with that as far as activity goes?
To be honest with you, most of it that I've been looking at is self-initiated and just going out with cars and doing that kind of self-initiated. There's some folks that move around, but it's not like there's a ton of arrests or anything like that. It's just the little bit that's been seen and stopped. Hasn't been a whole lot.
So maybe just traffic stops, speed driving too fast, or need to get dropped.
A few of those. The problem is there's not a lot of people at night driving through North Plains other than by the Chevron. Obviously the McDonald's and the Chevron is at night the hub of North Plains. But you get some folks that are walking around in it by different various businesses and stuff. So there hasn't been anything that stands out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my thought was that the people at night that are doing opportune crimes, not a bunch of just coming one or two guys. So, one or two arrests. I'm like, great, that's it. That's
Well, and again, I want to emphasize the vast majority of any of the crime sprees or any of the stuff we're having are not that we've talked about are not local residents. These are people that come in from Portland. So even to the extent of what just happened on Friday, they're not local individuals doing this. A lot of it's coming in from out of town.
And it's my understanding that the sheriff's office is now, like the full jail is open. And they're before, especially during COVID, they limited the amount of folks that they were actually arresting and holding. But it's my understanding it's
Yeah, within the last 2 weeks. If I'm not mistaken, I think an email went to the council, but for sure within the last couple of weeks, the sheriff has opened it up. So now we're back to business as usual. What used to be is if you commit a crime, we can arrest you for it, we can take you to jail. Again, that is just the first part of it. How long you stay in jail, there's a lot of other factors that go with that. But we're back to being able to, on the police side, be able to solve the problems at hand that we deal without going through the red tape, so to speak, of convincing the jail why this person needs to be lodged. We can actually at least get him to jail.
Councilor
This is
Smith.
fantastic.
Yes, last week we heard a big noise against our back picture window. we went outside and we found this. So I'm not sure what it is.
They're full.
It's a North Star.
Yeah.
And then we walked around the neighborhood the other day, and I found about a dozen of these.
It's 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
So I was wondering. I didn't know if they're-
I have a bunch of those in my house because I have kids. And I know the range on those isn't really great.
15, 20 feet.
So
I'm
it
not
must
sure
have
how
been
they got
someone
it.
running down the back of your yard or there's no drive-bys with those because that's not gonna work.
Okay, well, I didn't know what it was, but like I said, I've seen these. And I know somebody last year, in our 4 houses down, their sliding glass door, somebody, something hit, they didn't know what it was, and it broke the window. So I'm not sure if this is,
That'd be good. I've been shot at point blank range for a lot.
a tremendous amount of noise.
Yes.
Even in the eye.
Yeah,
It just seems something dangerous.
sure.
Anyone else?
I don't have any comments for the chief. My only comment would be in the order of the stop sign on commercial, I think we need to have 2 radar boards, one eastbound, one westbound, that's on a street sign. Just a simple notification of, conscious of what your speed is, because I think there's a lot more speed accumulating in there at times, at least when I've been on commercial, that I'm not saying it's not policed, but to me, it's well above 25. And people need to be more conscious of that. And I'm not opposed to a stop sign at the corner of Main and Commercial.
It's getting a lot more used to because of North Street, it's kind of messy. So I've been taking that street as well. So I'm gonna take north, and other people are taking commercial streets.
I think I know we've talked about, Andy and I have talked about that exact same thing, as well as, especially when north goes in, there's gonna be some other streets that potentially, that'll be a big, I know they put it in the school zones there, over there by Athlone, but there's a couple spots where that may be a useful tool as well, not just commercial, but some of the repeat offending streets, north was one of them.
Yeah, I just think it's more active measure than putting up a sign that says, beware radar. I mean, I'd rather have them beware of their speed, because in some cases, maybe they're daydreaming, they're not intending to speed, but just that notification alone will wake up a few folks.
And I also think about the commercial and Glencoe and West Union, that 4-way intersection, and how many times there are people that just fly through those stop signs, like a lot, I mean, we can attest to that as well. So I don't know if there's a way to, post a car there and have an exercise, do a sting or something like that, just to make people aware that the stop sign has a purpose. And I've seen trucks, cars, you name it, that fly through that intersection. Yeah.
Question?
Yes.
Counselor Kendall, hi.
Yeah, hi. I'm over there in Barnes Road. I went to that market of choice for one supermarket there. They've got stop signs that flash. I don't know if they're solar, but they're real catchy. It's only, they just catch your eye. I don't know how expensive they are, but I thought it'd be worth a check into it just to see. Kinda neat. But,
And I also noticed that you're having a public safety meeting, April 28th.
That's correct. Yes, public safety. I'm looking at it more of a town hall. My whole goal is to have all the residents or folks of North Plains be able to come in and really speak freely and tell me their concerns, so that I can either address them or work towards addressing them. Again, my goal is to be very inviting and open, more of a town hall, but less structure, but more where hopefully they just feel comfortable to say hi and speak their mind.
Counselor Martinez, Counselor Pittman, any questions or comments for the chief?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, let's go. Thank you, chief. Appreciate it. All right, next up is Public Works, Blake.
Good evening, everyone. To apologize, I might be a little froggy. I've been diagnosed with a herniated disc and a sciatic nerve pinch, so I'm on nerve blockers and painkillers. So I'll try to speak clearly. Working on the new reservoir. We're still tweaking out some SCADA issues, chlorine residuals, tank levels, turnover in the tank. I have had two of the counselors, Councilor Phage and Councilor Kendall, come and do a tour of the tank. I invite everybody else, when you have a chance, to give me a call, and be more than happy to take you down there and show you our $7.5 million new baby.
If you like the double check valves, this is the place to be.
So talk amongst yourselves. North Avenue, last couple weeks ago, April 7th and 8th, they were doing the paving out there. They've got the first two lifts down. They still have the final lift to put in. Everybody can see that they're working on North Avenue. What they're doing with North is you'll see that the big areas that they're going to be doing the concrete for the crosswalks. They're working on the reinforcement on that right now. And they should be pouring that here shortly. Once that gets poured, they'll be actually allowing that to cure, and they'll cure for several weeks meaning like about a month. And then they'll move the traffic from actually the traffic now is on the north side of the road. They're going to put it on the south side, and then they'll start working on the north side at that time. The arsenic removals design has gone through the state. The state has approved it. So it's basically rubber stamped and ready to start working on. And my next bullet point here is I'm working on a smooth transition for my replacement. My final day at the city will be May 20th. And we hope to have somebody on board by then, so I could tell them about 20 years of service, what's happened here. And for those that are keeping a count, it's been 101 days since our back truck has been stolen, and we still don't have it back yet from the shop. So, any questions?
Councilor Phage.
For the backfill replacement training, how long do you anticipate the time needed to work side by side, get people up on staffing, personalities, everybody's training background? And
It all depends on the person's background, I mean, how much they know about waterworks. I mean, hopefully some of the candidates that we did, the interview were very up to speed. And I mean, it's not rocket science what I do. You know, I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody on that one, but you know, there's a few transitions of things I have to tell people, but as long as you be able to hit the ground running.
So you anticipate a very short lead time as needed?
I think so. I mean, if they're worth their weight, you know, it's all, yeah, they should be able to pick it up.
Thanks.
Councilor Papen or Councilor Martinez? Any councilors here? Thank you.
Thank you
Feeling
very
better? Thank you, Blake. All right, Finance Director, Bill.
Good evening, everybody. So the report that I sent out is city financial information through March 31st, and that marks the end of the third quarter of this current fiscal year. So the report's a bit longer. It does have information about our capital funds. We do a quarterly summary of all that because their activity isn't nearly as much as the operating funds, but we do track that, of course. Okay, so diving right in, not much has changed with the general fund overall. It's tracking basically at or right below budget on the vast majority of items. There is a variety of things going on in different departments, but all combined, one in particular, I would say, but all of that combined, general fund overall tracking at or right below budget, actually. For the most part, different departments are mostly tracking at or below budget, consistent with the overall general fund. There are a couple of things to note department-wise. Number one, next month, you should start seeing the increased cost of additional law enforcement service and additional overtime and the cost of that. So through March for public safety, starting in April, that'll start to go up. So we'll be able to track kind of how that change is impacting the rate of expense. But we do get billed the month after on that, so there's always a lag. So we'll begin talking about that next month when it shows up. Let's see, the other thing I wanted to point out, the other thing that really kind of stands out is we're not over budget for the biennium, but we are on track to consider a supplemental budget, and that's materials and services in the community development department. That's consulting primarily for the UGB, long range planning, and some engineering and professional services doing development review. All of those things combined are on pace, faster than we budgeted, but we're not above budget. Wednesday night at budget committee, that particular line item, materials and services and community development, particularly for UGB planning, will be a topic of consideration for when we come back to you with the gigantic supplemental budget proposal mid-biennium. So just kind of pointing out a couple of things that are tracking a bit unusually. Streets fund and water fund. Nothing dramatically has changed since the previous month. We do have a few items in the streets fund in particular that we need to do some journal entries on because they were misattributed instead of the transportation bond fund. Some costs have been attributed to the streets fund, so we need to fix that basically. Journal entry, not, I mean, all the money's in and out of the same fund or same pot basically, but the water fund continues to basically track similarly as last month. We have with that fund as well had an unusual amount of expenses for engineering and design review for projects. So we are a little bit more than expected on that, but we're still not approaching the biennial budget on that. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail on Wednesday night when we do a kind of a more in detail review. But so far, the operating funds are about where they should be, and we have a few line items that we're watching and we're going to consider for supplemental budget consideration. Water fund account status report. March was an okay month. The total amount of overdue balance that the city water utility has went down by a little over $2,000, but we had an increase of 12 accounts go over 30 days overdue. So we had some big accounts paid off, and we had a number of people move from under 30 day to 30 to 60 day with smaller balances. So net overall, the city overall overdue balance is better. We just have a few more extra late paying 30 to 60. So it was a positive month overall, but we're still not where we were March 2020, right at the beginning of the COVID shutdown. Back then we had an overdue, complete total overdue balance citywide of about $6,500, $6,600. So we're off from that. I will say the finance team has been putting a lot of work into strategies and things that we want to do to put into place to help with this, including, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I'll mention it now. We've actually identified what we think would be a fantastic change in customer service billing software. And it's actually affiliated, it's actually ends up being a sub program of the main accounting program we already use. But anyway, it's far more like a modern utility or like PGE or whoever else you pay. You go in, you have far more control over your account. You could set up auto pay extremely easily. You can go completely paperless. Doing the homework on it, we can actually not only reduce the cost of people not paying because it's difficult and having to still rely on checks sometimes, and getting all of that, this system helps with. So just by making it easier, we think we'll have significant improvement for some of our accounts. It also let businesses pay their annual license fee. It lets people pay for reserving and paying for Jesse May's facility. I mean, any really kind of payment to the city and a fee can be handled through that. And so all that consolidation and simplification will help dramatically as well. So we're looking at implementing that by July 1st, but more details to pick up, but that's our target date. And it should dramatically reduce our costs every month as well.
And will it be a free process, or will there, if people want to go on and, pay by check or credit card or whatever, banking, I mean, will there be a surcharge?
The charges will be lower, like those fees and charges to residents will be lower. It's funny how it works, but yes, the city will absorb what used to be the old fees, but the cost of using this program is so much lower than net differences of total lower cost to the city. So it's a nice setup.
Yeah, software generally makes their money by charging for the software, right?
Sure.
So, but the automation is going to save us a lot of money, staff and such. So that's going to be a big gain. Automation, here we go.
All right, so moving forward, capital funds. I think the big stories really out of all that are, number one, Brindle has moved forward with a lot of building permit applications. And we have received, I believe 15, actually as of today, I think we have like 10 or 12 more. But as of reporting here, we had 59 lots with building permit applications and therefore payments for system development charges, TDT, and a number of other fees. So what you see in this report is that for a number of our different funds that get SDCs, or the Transportation Development Tax Fund. The other big story I would say with all of this is we did receive in January the $1.8 million from the state that was ARPA money for Jesse Mays and for Ghost Creek Trail. And that has been parked in the ARPA fund. And when we have some more detail about how specifically to split those by project and the other funds, we'll do that. But right now, there's $1.8 million sitting in the ARPA fund waiting for those projects. I think those are kind of the highlights of the capital funds, I would say.
Can I ask a question?
By all
about
means,
SDCs?
yeah.
When are the refunds for SDCs processed on development projects?
It's,
After completion of the build?
I believe that is correct, but we haven't had it in a while. So I mean, it was the last one out of that time.
Like an SDC credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, once they have built the public improvement, it's been accepted by the city, and they have some SDCs owed that they can credit against. So it's, trying to think of some. We've only had to do that with a few projects, but one was Polygon and Taylor Morrison. Not long after I started, well, it's actually a while after I started, they got a credit for doing work on Jackson's Hole Road, and it was well after one of the phases had been completed. So,
And we've had them in the past with other DR portals.
oh yeah, it's just it's,
Pre-you, I was just
Yep.
trying to understand, I just wanted to understand like when that process is triggered. So is it after occupancy or completion? It sounds like it's completion.
well, no, you owe SDCs once a building permit is issued. So typically, if they're going to get a credit for a project, it's going to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, or quite a lot. So you're talking, you need at least 10 homes or something like that, building permits to credit against. So that's kind of the trigger. I mean, they'll try to get them as soon as possible because they want that cash back, but they just have to have the homes ready to be paying SDCs on, and we'll get that credit. Yeah, so it's with building permit, and it just sort of depends on the size of the credit.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Finch.
Materials and services, for the last almost 30 years, we've had pretty steady low inflation of like 2%, 2.5. So the Fed's been pretty good at doing that. But recently we've had COVID and nationalism, where countries are keeping their own, so that's raising up costs. That's brand new. So we haven't had a really good chance to plan for the higher costs. With the biannual budget, how's that going to the biennial budget, how's that gonna work out to look ahead? Because anybody watching the news, that's the main headline. The world's costing more money, right? So we've had 2 years worth of inflation, almost 3 years worth of inflation just in the past year. How's that gonna work out for our look aheads?
Councilor Page, the answer to that is, we, right now, with the biennial budget being a full 2-year budget, we have a cushion before we are worried about it for most things. But what it ultimately means is that we right now have been tracking and taking a look at, for instance, what other cities are looking at in terms of their inflation planning, from personnel costs to other things. And we will spend time and come back to you with a sizable, when I say sizable, I mean a number of different things in a single supplemental budget that will include probably increasing some costs of different things very explicitly because of inflation. But we have a little bit of time to do that. One thing I wanted to just underscore in the report is the budget committee meeting tomorrow. Wednesday, sorry, Monday, this is Monday, I'm off. I'm working on presentations for 2 days. Anyway, so the current budget is a full 2-year adopted budget. So however we change it, the change actually works very much like any supplemental budget. We can do a supplemental budget really anytime over the 2-year period. So we'll plan different cost inflation factors for different things based on kind of what we pull together on what's appropriate and how other cities have been taking a look at it.
So you look at revenues as well. So when we're talking about the fees we charge, we're talking about coming up, are the fees too low that we have? Because we are benchmarking indexes that for the last 30 years have been very low as far as adjustment goes. So are we going to be able to balance our budgets by adjusting the income we have versus the outgoing? That's my true question, not do you just raise the budget? How are we going to get the money to come in? And that's not going to be answered here, I understand. But that's something that we probably should think about. Pretty well. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Now, we will be doing a review of a number of things because of those very points you raised. Any other questions?
Councilor Smith.
Okay, so we received $1.8 million, correct?
Yes.
800,000 of that was supposed to be going to Jesse May and $1 million. Those streets.
Let me interject before you speak, Bill. Continue, sorry.
Okay. And then $1 million was supposed to go to those project or 2 year had the money for. My question is, and maybe it's too early to ask this, but I think we had 800,000 already reserved for Jesse Mays. And I think Andy said we were going to be over $1 million on the project as it is, correct?
Go ahead and finish your thought and then I'll,
Okay.
because I'm prepared to answer this. Yeah, and I feel much more comfortable me answering this because I wrote the grant than Bill, who just makes sure that we're legal, that we were tracking things.
So once we get all said and done, out of that 1.6 million, what's going to be the leftover that we can do some more improvements with here?
Okay, so the grant was for both of those projects. It was the West Union pedestrian path. So that's the one on West Union, and it's for Jesse Mays improvements. 1.8 million total. In the eyes of the state, in the eyes of the grantors, they don't care which way it's split. So that's why I'm kind of waiting. That's why the money is sitting in ARPA. And once we see how the bids come in, which by the way, that project's going to bid this week. Once we see how the bids come in, and like we just talked about inflation, you got to wonder about, well, what are materials, supplies, labor going to be costing this year? Then we can sort of divvy it up appropriately. Like you rightly noted, we had in that transportation bond 1.2 million already set aside and paid for through the bond for the West Union Pit project. So anything above that is sort of gravy. So right now, the way I just did the first grant report, they're split 50-50, 900-900, but those can be adjusted very easily because in the eyes of the state, as long as it goes to both projects, because that's what the legislators directed them to, the amounts aren't going to really matter. But Jesse Mays, just because it doesn't, because it is more unfunded than the West Union Ped Path was, that's the one I want to see how the bids come in, and then we'll appropriately divvy that up. Now, that being said, that's 1.8 million. And like I said, a lot of that head project is already funded through the bond. There should be some flexibility in there to put that towards some other road projects. But we won't have the full accounting of that until we get probably later this summer into that project. Sorry, Bill, but
Councilors Martinez and Payton, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, item number 7E is the land use applications for the previous 30 days. Any comments?
That gets changed daily
Daily.
right now. I added like eight more applications for Lennar today. So probably what you see in the packet for the next couple months won't exactly be current. It'll
Okay.
be through the week before the meeting.
So are they trying to push them? You wouldn't know this anyway, push them through before the price increase.
Oh, not necessarily that. I think they're trying to push them because I know that the permits take so long.
They want to sell them, yeah.
Yeah, the permitting process.
yeah, I think they finally reached a point where they can start plugging through, but yeah, I wouldn't expect to see more than, I think they're just at a rush right now. I think it'll slow down. Because they're gonna be,
And I noticed they started selling. Do we know how they're doing or? We don't know that yet.
probably okay.
Yeah, they plan to sell 10 to 14 a month. That's their pro forma as of just a few weeks ago when we talked to them. So if we hear anything different, we'll let you know.
Well, don't they have an open house for the 30th?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So they're basically pre-selling. Yeah. All right. Item number 8A tonight is our only ordinance that we have. It is a public hearing, but there's no script. It's ordinance number 478 for transportation utility fee methodology update. And Andy, I think this one's yours.
Okay, thank you. Yes, this is an ordinance that doesn't require a public hearing because it's not related to land use. This is the explanation that we got from Spencer according to law, so that's great.
Okay.
I don't know if you got to exercise your vocal cords in years past when it was not necessary, but this is a nice surprise that we discovered this last week. We just had this discussion about kind of keeping up with different fees in town as the town grows and the maintenance and operations costs grow with that in the community. So as part of the system development charge report that the consultant did a few months back, when we had a work session on in February, part of that was looking at the transportation utility fee as well. That's on the monthly water bill. That's what helps pay for streets, sidewalks, maintenance, equipment, streetlights, operations and maintenance, and the power bills too. And like we talked about then, that methodology and the fee haven't been raised in 2 years, since 2011. So that was part of the analysis, was them looking at that fee. We'll get back to what the recommended fee is at a future council meeting, probably the next one. But their first recommendation, first and foremost, was to clean up the code, to take the methodology, calculating the rate out of the code. And we've had to do this on other fees before. We had to do that on SDCs for some reason. The methodology for calculating them was in the code. The fee schedule was in the code. We removed that too. And then those changes are just done yearly by resolution. It's a lot cleaner. That way you can, the ordinance establishes the program and the parameters and what they're about, and then your resolution is what you use to pass these sort of fee changes. So that's what this ordinance is doing, is simply changing the code to take out that base rate methodology. And then the step 2 would be to have a resolution subsequent to this to adjust the fee. So this one today is simply making the code change that you see in the resolution in section 1. And then we would have a resolution at the next meeting addressing the fee change itself. This is brief. simple.
Okay, so this is not the fee change, it's just to say that we are gonna change it.
Right, instead of, yeah, the way it was written before is the fee is $1.33 and it's in code for perpetuity. So we're taking something like that out and just saying the resolution will tell you what the fee is.
Excellent.
Kind of it's a bureaucrat's treatment.
That's where we're $50 bucks.
I'm going to go to Councilor Martinez and Councilor Payton. Do you have any questions or comments for Andy? No? Okay. Any comments or questions here? So then we have two sample motions. First, we're going to conduct the first reading, and then the second motion then would be to approve the first reading. So if there are no comments or questions, then do I have a motion on the first?
You don't make it. I move to conduct a first reading of ordinance 478 by title only.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Ordinance number 478 is an ordinance amending section 54.04 of the North Plains Municipal Code regarding the rate structure of the transportation utility fee. Second action that we have is the approval of the first reading. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 478.
I'll second. All right, so Councilor Page first, and then was it Councilor Payton? Thank you. Second, okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Easy peasy. Moving on, number 9, no business to discuss. 10, no unfinished business to report at this time. And then down to city manager report. Andy.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello again, everyone. Well, good news. We finally got some of the details sorted out for the cleanup day on May 14th, and postcards should be going out this week. And that's about a week or a month before the event. So hopefully those excuses are off the table. We arrive in plenty of time. And of course, the garage sale day every weekend before that. We had a request from Habitat for Humanity. For Humanity for a donation from our the ARPA allocation. I talked this over with the mayor, and we're going to come back. Bill and I have come back once we get through some of the budget processes. Will probably be June and July. Sort of an update on ARPA spending. We'll have had some progress by then, but I think this is a very minimal donation from $460,000 to donate $6,000 to Habitat for Humanity. And of course, they would look at, some service projects, 2 or 3 in town, just to have more of a presence here. So I think it's a cause worth supporting. But we'll have a sort of an update on the ARPA fund in a couple months. So but I want to get that on folks' radar.
Can I add that there are about 3 projects in the queue for families in North Plains currently? Councilor Fade, what did we do, like 2 or 3 last year?
Yeah, I sent out a note to Virginia asking to expand, which is Virginia is the other director for the local area of Habitat. And I didn't get a response back yet. But I was just trying to get some more detailed information of what we have in the pipeline of exactly, a little bit more, so I get it, highlight people or give you a little awareness. But I haven't had that answer yet. But yeah, 2 years ago before COVID hit, we were able to do 3. That's pretty good turnout. During COVID, the turnout was much smaller. But since things are going to be back to normal, we're going to try to use this as a way to get the community together for some legal work. So I don't know how many we have in the queue. I don't know what's planned yet. I tried to get the information for us tonight, but I couldn't. But there'll be something over the summer. Generally takes place in August or thereabouts.
You're currently on the board still,
So,
correct?
yeah.
Great, thanks for the update. I'm glad you're on that board. They didn't want the piano though, but.
No, they-
Which, that's smart. We're hosting the West Side Economic Alliance. It's sort of a business trade group, business, sort of like a chamber for Washington County and the Portland West Side metro area. But we're hosting one of the subcommittees here on Wednesday at noon at Jesse Mays. I sent that invitation out earlier today. You could be here or there's a Zoom link too. We'll talk about the EOA, the GOA, probably a little on the HNA, but we'll be clear about all those acronyms. But
All these acronyms.
yeah, economic development, basically. What is North Plains and its
Right.
economy doing and where are they going? So Bill will be leading that and I'll be backbenching. Like I said earlier, we've got the bid set done for the Jesse Mays Park improvements and that will go out to bid at the end of this week. Bids due May 26th and the start date in mid-August, a couple of days after the Garland Festival ends. Good thing there is it's the one time the event organizers can let that look a little shoddy at the end of it because it'll all be getting ripped out. So what a good timing. So go crazy with that on that lot there. Let's see here. We're gonna have a work session in May with the Sheriff's Office and police in general to talk about the IGA. I think we touched on that a bit before. But really surprisingly good, strong turnout for the downtown plant open house. A few of you were there last week. Considering the weather, we saw a lot of barbecue and shaved ice. That was great, and I think it opens people's eyes about what can happen in some of those buildings in particular. I had several conversations about that, so I might get some wheels turning from not just consultants, but importantly, the community members too. We do have the pre-application meeting scheduled for the North Plains Collective, which is the name of the Opportunity Area Project with Rimbold. That pre-app meeting is going to be next Monday, I think. It's early next week. And then I think there'll probably be a community meeting. Those usually happen pretty short order after those meetings take place, so we can get rolling. The big news today, got one down, had an offer letter accepted from a planner. She'll start May 23rd. She'll be really good. She's very exceptional. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, that's about it. But Blake talked about a few different projects. We wanted to get you that update with 3J earlier this month, but we've got too many other things going on. So that will happen in June, but we'll get around to the CIP update, from water to parks to streets and all that stuff in June.
What about the Public Works Director position? You completed the interviews?
Yes, we had 3 interviews on Friday. There was a clear number 1, and I left a message with that gentleman today, so hopefully we can touch base tomorrow and proceed to the next step. And this person that we're targeting has a lot of water experience. So
Any comments or questions for Andy? Councilor Smith?
One simple one. I haven't heard anything about Purple Parkway, sir. How's that going?
it's underwater. A lot.
Under snow too?
Yeah. I'm putting my efforts into this park. We have the wetlands delineations done with that. All the flood, all of that is surveyed. We kind of know what we had to work with, and it's not much. One of the other reasons I want to see how this ARPA allocation will fall out is depending on how much we have to put into Purple Park to make that more usable year round. It may involve a lot of dirt. Because from the wetland delineation, that, I don't know if you've seen any of the flags out there, but that front part, it's not there very far from the road from where the wetland actually begins. And that's when you have to do a lot of work to mitigate that. So I'm kind of waiting to see, we're getting through all the bid process and all that stuff with Jesse Mays, and then we'll get into Purple Park and kind of wait to see what that design might look like. in the price tag.
Is it worth saving?
Well, it's there, right?
I doubt it.
I mean,
Personally.
that's what I'm thinking. Is it worth saving?
Just take the park down and make it to a wetland.
It's a good question. That's kind of what we're waiting on, because I think this year was really the first more typical year since I've been here in Oregon for 4 years, and that thing is there's just a few months really that wouldn't be usable, and I think we're really going to have to jack that thing up with a lot of fill.
It's been underwater like that for the last couple of years. I mean, that's more so than when it actually was created.
We would consider, well, maybe that could just be a dog park in the fences, but we'd have to get some floaties for the dogs. Most of the years, I wouldn't.
I'm just saying the cost.
Yeah.
Right.
To fix that. It might not be worth saving.
Yeah, ask Mary to do that. Some of that equipment may be used up here, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what's down there very much. There's not much equipment, but could be used up here maybe too.
Well, there's some
The
land.
purple, the equipment,
Yes.
can it be reused? Yeah, I mean, that's a good
I'm
question.
sure it's very rust, some of that underwater may have
Rust issue.
yeah. I'm waiting to see, like I said, we're gonna have a meeting in May to discuss the future of that with the engineers and the wetland consultant. I've never done a wetlands exchange. Maybe there's something we could do, try to get land elsewhere, but I don't know. We'd have to.
We discussed with the Parks and Rec committee and see what they have to say about it.
Well, we were supposed to do a walking tour last week, but that's when it snowed. And it was just soggy everywhere. So they postponed it for a month. But that's one that they'll visit.
Questions online? Andy, where are we with the, I think I read in your last report, the AmeriCorps grant and the TGM grant?
Both submitted. AmeriCorps grant, I don't know, Bill, I feel pretty good about that. Like, we had several meetings with the grant coordinators. They liked the project, they liked the application. So it's just a matter of time before we hear about that. TGM, that was like the pre-application. So we'll have a meeting with their team here shortly. They'll hear more about it, and then they'll just say, okay, great, submit a full application. At least that's how it went previously. So we would do that over the summer. They would announce awards in September. And if we were so lucky, the funding would have arrived in 2023, which would be what we're wanting to apply for. Would be great touch.
And I wanted to, I should have brought it up with Blake, but given the circumstances, I've decided to take a pause, but I will bring it up to you about the graffiti on the Ghost Creek Trail under the Glencoe overpass. That's been there for a while. And I'm concerned about it because I've been reading a lot about tagging that's been going on in Hillsborough. And I'm concerned that if this is not taken care of, folks who do that sort of thing will see that as a green light to do it elsewhere and in our community. And I'm really concerned about that. So is that something that you could look into?
I already mentioned it today. I was actually down there walking under it as part of my walking tour today. So yeah, we can chat about that today.
Okay, good. All right. Anything else for Andy? Not any council reports? I have just attended the WCCC Washington County Coordinating Committee meeting today. And it was a pretty full agenda, but nothing too dicey and deep. We did go through just a couple of things like TriMet has a program. They're doing a forward project. They're also looking at transit in the rural communities. So that is still foremost on the Washington County side. And I'm on that committees, and I think we have a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, so let's see, the Erin Doyle from Washington County, she's a lobbyist. She gave the 2022 legislative short session summary, and I think Councilor Papen, you had made a comment maybe a month or so ago that you just wanted to get, more information on House bills and things like that, legislatively. And so today it was I could put this all in an email instead of going through all of them, but 2 House bills that did not pass in this short session that were of interest to me that might come back around in 2023. That sort of sparked my interest was House Bill 4063 and House Bill 4118. And 4118 is UGBs and development. And it's something that they were trying to push the timeframes in that particular bill to eliminate the timeframes. So essentially, if you've got land that's not in the UGB in the city, you could say, I want to bring it in, bring your money to the table and your development and, build houses. They're trying to find, the state wants to obviously work on the house shortage issue, affordable housing. And if there's someone that has some property outside of the UGB and they say, hey, we'll help you solve that problem, let us build on our land, so it's something that I think it sort of sparked my interest, and I thought, oh, what's this one all about? So I don't know if it's something that we should be really concerned about, but it might not be a bad idea to just keep it,
It's
on the radar.
interesting. I
It's
read most
interesting.
of the testimony
Did you?
in
Okay,
the initial committee reports. It's gonna be pretty guarded.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see if
Yeah.
it gets any traction.
but it looks like they're just gonna go in 2023, more land use and housing, reduced costs to plan for new development, industrial land use, transportation capacity and infrastructure. Looks like those are gonna be some of the highlights for 2023. So, and that's all I have to report on. Any other comments or questions from council?
So what are the metro area? We still got stuck with the metro tax.
The TriMet.
No, I'm trying to figure that measure it was.
Can't be taxed in Metro's district. You're not in that jurisdiction.
It's for where your income is sourced, not where you live.
That's a tax if you work inside Metro
Yeah.
jurisdiction.
So I had to pay a pretty hefty tax this year for the first time. Like, that's awesome. I didn't even get a vote on it. So that's some equivalent for me. I had to pay a metro tax of like $1,000 for living there. Like, so that's nice.
I was paying it for a while. I lived in
It-
Portland, so.
It first started this year, so this year I paid it. It just came up in 20.
I was paying it before, because I worked at Portland.
There's a metro tax. Everybody pays that, but there's a special tax that just came up this year. So that's nice. Anyways, I'm not a fan of that. So that's my grumble of metro. Officially.
All right.
Well, you can go to their meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're open.
yeah.
They need help, lots of.
Yeah.
All right. Any other, anything else to report? All right. With that, then I'll go ahead and adjourn our city council meeting at 8:04. Good night, all.
Good night, thank you.